Welcome, welcome, welcome. So let me ask you, have you ever thought about how can I transform my doubts, fears, and anxieties into more success, confidence, and fulfillment? If you've ever gone down that road at all, you'll be so excited to hear from my guest and my dear friend, Carrie Valentine. For over a decade, Carrie's Champion Your Inner Game Peak Performance System has assisted many business leaders, international sales teams, real estate agents, pro golfers, world class musicians, actors, singles, and couples who point to their increased success and vitality to incorporating his system, which quickly transforms fears, doubts, and worries permanently. Did you hear me say that? Permanently, and creating more confidence, success, pleasure, and joy. I personally and my assistant have the pleasure to go through Carrie's program in the past, and it is amazing. So I can't wait to get in and talk more about it. So welcome, Carrie.
Aloha, Kathy. It's great to be here. Great to see you. I'm really honored to be here on your show. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. I'm so excited to share this information with everybody today. So let me ask you, is there, what's the number one reason that holds people, folks back from achieving their success?
Well, it's a great question. And in the business world, outside of the technical things that each person needs to know and have, and to do whatever it is their kind of business is, I have found the number one area is their mental game. And that is about the level of confidence and feeling of self-esteem they have, as well as the level of doubts, fears, and anxieties they may go through on any given day. Now, what I have found and is that most people, we, especially in our culture, we want to suppress those doubts, fears, and anxiety and kind of push them under the rug. And I'll ask you, how's that working for you? Has that created and provided a sustaining solution? Well, I would say more than likely it hasn't. And I myself am like, I consider myself the poster boy for doubt. So believe me, folks, I know what it feels like to go down the well of despair. And I've lived there for most of my life, actually. And I know now what it's like to be out of it. So I'm so excited to be authentic and give a lot of different tools here in our conversation today to help you. So the one thing with this, Kathy, is you've got to expect to have mental challenges. You want to expect and be prepared that as you go and like think of a new idea and you're about to launch a new product or business or however this is, that somewhere along the line that you're going to have some doubts, fears, and insecurities. Now, if you're expecting them and then you have the tools to transform them, you're not worried. But if you don't have the tools, it could be, daunting and almost crippling. I know it has been for me, and with many of the people that I, coach, and it comes across the board, whether you're an elite athlete or you're a chef or you're in the financial industry or real estate industry or an entrepreneur or a speaker, the doubts affect everyone the same. So if you understand that they're going to come, and here's the real kicker about this, Kathy, not that only that you expect them to come, but when they do come, you realize and you welcome them. Why? That may sound crazy. Why would I welcome doubts into my life? Why would I want to have to deal with these feelings of them? Because when they show up, they are actually, foretelling the future of your success if you take action to acknowledge it, that doubt, if you neutralize it, and then you understand, if you heard, let's say, that business idea, that's never going to be successful. Let's say you hear that doubt. What it's actually saying, I say, turn it inside out. It's actually telling you you're the exact opposite. So it would say simply, oh, that business idea, that's going to be a huge success. Now, let me ask you this, Cathie. If you heard that in your head as you are forging ahead or you're about to press the button on a new idea, how are you going to feel? How are you going to feel?
Yeah, that's amazing for you to say that, turn your doubt inside out. Because yeah, if that was said, if I said the good things to me, then I would, where's that coming from? I'm so used to having, the feelings coming out. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, I just can't wait to get it so involved in all this because I think it's so amazing and so interesting. But tell us a little bit about you and how you got started down this road.
Pain, misery, suffering.
Oh, sorry
I
to
come
say.
from the New York City. Yeah. I come from the New York City area. That's where I grew up with my family. I was extremely shy and mumbled. Um, and so throughout my life, I'll just, there's a lot to the story, but I'll try to give brief elements here and then just give some props to the person who changed my life, which is Robin Williams, believe it or not. When I started to see Robin on the comedy world and do his stand up and TV shows, something happened to me that brought my voice out. And I would say the other element, I would say, it just so happened I was going through puberty as well. So I think those two elements got me to be a little bit more braver and start speaking up. And what happened after that is I started to perform professionally as a drummer percussionist. And what I found is the quicker, or what I would say, the more the accolades started to happen and start to record and travel around the country and travel around the world, the more the doubts started coming in, like you stink, you're worthless, you're not really any good, this is going to fail. All these kind of negative voices happen. And I had no tools at that time really to combat it other than like, get the heck out of here or whatever. Some people do drugs and drinking and overwork or all kinds of stuff. That just wasn't my path. I actually started to look into my mind. I started to explore the psychology of what was going on here and went, did a lot of therapy. I became a yoga teacher. I did a lot of meditation. And all these things helped, Cathie, but they did not stop the doubts. And I noticed there was a relationship. The more, as I said, the more successful I was becoming, the more intense the doubts became. So there was, and something was going on here. So I had an epiphany moment at the very lowest moment in my life. I literally wanted to end my life because the doubts just wouldn't stop. And I had this epiphany moment, and that created the information download to me that now this system is kind of a systems became crafted from it. So that's, it took a lot of years to figure it out. But basically the essence of this is the negative voice you hear is the opposite is true. And so from this, I started helping myself. My life completely changed. And just organically, one day I was hanging out with some golf buddies and I said, hey guys, by the way, do you have any doubts or fears when you play golf? And they're like, jaw just dropped. And when they finally picked it up off the ground, they're like, yeah, duh, dude, of course. And so I just started to share with them about this system that I put together. And they were like, oh my gosh, I've never heard about this idea anyway, to kind of turn the doubts inside out. And also they started to apply it and they realized and saw that they started to play much better and started to win, tournaments. And then the same system, I just started to talk to business people and business owners and musicians, and it works the same no matter what kind of industry you're in.
Well, a couple of things that you say, come to mind. And one of them, I was thinking when you were talking about the drugs, alcohol, things like that, I'm a reforming workaholic. And when I look back at now why, Why was I that way? It was because I was trying to probably overcome those doubts. I doubted that I was capable. I was doubted that, anybody would see me, basically. So I had to always do over and above because I had to prove to, them that I was, doing my very best or whatever. So I can just see how, we let our feelings take over our world, really. And I love the idea of it turning it, inside out, because it is such a mental game, and we don't even realize it. We don't realize that we do things from feelings. We react or we shut down, right? And trying to fight them, we shut down. And as business owners, we sometimes have that, what do they call it, imposter syndrome. Who am I to be able to do this? Who am I to be able to, why should people pay me for this? And I think, we don't really realize that, what we have, and that all that mental part is such an important part for us to address.
Oh my gosh, Kathy, this is a wonderful point. And I want to touch upon two elements of what you're just sharing yourself. A lot of times, especially now, I'm working with people that have been in the corporate world and then, due variety of reasons, have decided to, start working on their own and create a new business or be a speaker or an author. And let's say for these people, they were salespeople, and so when they were selling the product, they were fine. They really didn't have doubts. But the moment the product was them, and then they started to have to represent themselves, oh my gosh, it was like a torrential rain pouring of doubts and fears that would come in. And they were like, I don't know what the heck's going on here. I've never really experienced it like this before. And that's because, again, you are the product now. You are, in a sense, naked. You are the one who is selling yourself. And so obviously this happens to other people as well, but I just wanted to point that out, as as well as you are saying a very, very, very important thing. In our culture, we're not so comfortable for most of us to deal with feelings. I know I wasn't. It took me a lot to embrace the real uncomfortable feelings, right? We want to push it under the rug. We want to mentalize it. We want to, just, not almost like, it's the pink elephant in the room and never address it. Well, that's the kingpin. The truth is the emotions are the key. And when you have tools that encompass in this system that I share with people, you become very relaxed and you become at ease with your emotions, because you realize there's nothing to be afraid of. Actually, the feelings are your best friends and they're trying to help you succeed. So there's something too that, in the last number of years, Kaiser Permanente worked with some different doctors, and they realized there's something they call adverse childhood experiences, or called ACE. Now, some of the folks who are listening to this may have heard of this. Some of it may be first time you hear about it. And what they found is that most people have some effects from childhood that have a negative effect as they grow up. And their purpose with Kaiser Permanente's purpose was they were trying to link uh, very damaging health problems that, like heart disease and diabetes and different physical challenges, with what happened decades ago and alcoholism as a child. And they were able to make this link that things that happened in your childhood that were emotionally damaging to you, and that could be screaming and hollering in your home, that could be a parent who is abusive, not just physically but emotionally, that could be a parent who, you're no longer living together with your parents, that could be, a parent who is also incarcerated. There's many different ways we do feel affected by this. That there was literally a connection between those circumstances that happened as a child that you never addressed throughout your adult life that then showed up decades later as physical health damaging situations, life threatening. So that was their reason and their connection. And they did make this connection and they see this and it crosses the board. Doesn't matter what kind of, race you're in, doesn't matter what your education or financial background is. This happens. So I wanted to share with people about ACE, ACE or ACE. And you can go online, Google it, and take a quick test in 5 minutes and really open your world and open to some insights there, because I myself, I was insecure. Through that, I would say that led me to why I didn't really speak that much. And my situation in my home, my parents loved each other very much, but they had no way of understanding how to show it. You know the way they showed it to each other? Yelling, screaming, slamming doors, and cursing. That was on a daily basis. That had an overall major effect on me. And, I'm sure I had my own already personality traits of being shy, but that influenced it. Now, not everyone comes from that background and that situation. I'm just saying, if you have some doubts, there's probably some connection to this from your personality and how you were raised. That's all, I really want to say on that part.
Well, I kind of just want to, I love that, that you're talking about that. And, I'm going to share, something that I learned over as I've been building my business. And that was, and I don't remember what triggered it, but it was when I was working on one of my programs to help someone else. I remembered when I was in the 5th grade. So at the time we didn't know it, I was dyslexic. So I had reading problems, but I always wanted to be a teacher. I mean, that was my goal, my dream. I was going to grow up to be a teacher. And I remember sitting there and my mother came in for a parent teacher conference, and I can put myself right there in that position, the teacher, my mom, where we were sitting. I mean, it's like it was yesterday. And she said to the teacher, she said, it's so sad because Cathy will never be a teacher if she flunks history. Now, my mom didn't mean anything bad from that. She was worried for me because she knew how much I wanted to be a teacher, and I was not doing good in this class because there was so much reading in it. And that's when we, found out that I, had a problem with reading and things like that. When I look back at that, she meant nothing. She was concerned for me. It was out of her love that she said that. But then when I looked back and I looked in what I went for forward, every time I went to school to do that and sign up for college, I talked myself out of it for one reason or another. So until I came an adult is when I became a teacher. I started teaching, sewing and quilting, things that I loved. And that was just because people asked me to do it. And then I realized how much I love teaching, and helping adults. But that was such an eye-opener for me. Just that little sentence that I know affected my life tremendously.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And we as adults oftentimes don't realize now, being adults, the power of words, especially to a younger person. And, we should be aware of that and be watchful of what we say, because things can be said differently. Like what if she said, it seems like Cathy's having trouble in this history class. Let's figure out how to make it work for her so that she can do well here and continue her dream being a teacher. Right. Wow.
What a difference.
Wouldn't that have looked differently? And yet we're going to get the same results. Obviously would
have got better results, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's, what I've heard is that we want to acknowledge those feelings. We want to look at them in a different way. We want to look at them as, as being helpful instead of hindrance to us.
Yes, yes. So right there, understand the nature. We need to discover the nature of doubt. And basically, the key thing here is turn the doubt inside out. When you hear it in your head, or in this case, if it was go back to the history teacher, if you had these tools and had that awareness when the teacher said what they said to you, you would have said, oh my gosh, what they're really telling me is I'm going to be a great teacher. So, it's understanding, especially when you hear it in your own head, your subconscious, and why it's telling you that, because that's an important thing that most people, when they hear the doubt, they just think it's true. They don't even fight it. Partly is because it's not your fault. You never were modeled or shown or told this information and given these tools to how to turn it around. But I'm asking you now, think about the most damaging doubt you have. Maybe it's regarding your business, maybe it's about your body or creativity or whatever it is. Think about that for a second. It's something isn't enough, right? You're not good enough or whatever it is. I mean, again, I come from the creative art world as a musician, and come on, there's no hidden thing about this, that most musicians and singers have incredible self-doubt. I mean, I've traveled the world, played with some of the most incredible musicians, and then I get off stage and start talking to them, and I'm like, you what? You think so low? You're thinking this low about yourself? You're an incredible musician. And that's the point too. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you actually succeed in the world. These doubts will still be here. Another quick example is Kobe Bryant, the basketball player. Now, Kobe, he was an incredible, had an incredible mind. He was very, very intelligent, and he had this desire to be a successful basketball player. Obviously, he achieved that, but most people don't know that Kobe would say his most challenging opponent he ever faced was no one on the basketball court. It was right here in his own head. He would, and he was honest with that. And, he would achieve success, because here's another level of something we're going to, I'm touching upon. He achieved success by winning a championship. And then to achieve the next championship, it got harder, not necessarily physically, but mentally. And most people also, they say it's hard to reach the pinnacle of success. But once you're there, it's even harder to stay there. Why is this? Well, I've looked into this. I've examined it. I've researched, interviewed so many different people, and found out that once you achieve a level of success, in terms of your internal subconscious mind, it celebrates and says, right on, awesome, woohoo, fantastic. Now, to get to the next level, you need more pressure. You need more challenge to get to that next level. But most people never realize and think about they're going to be challenged along the journey and the pathway of success. But if you understand that and you have the tools proper, that will work and sustaining, you welcome it. I'm not saying that the doubts will just on their own go away, but I am saying that if you have the right system and tools, you will not be so affected by the doubts. Here's something too, Cathys, to share with folks is a lot of people say, oh, great. Well, now I have these tools and, system, it's helping me. And, but I'm expecting that I'm going to have to deal with these doubts all throughout the rest of my life. And what I have found in my own experience and working with others, that's not the case. As long as you go utilize the system and working it, the doubts will actually show up less. Now, I'm not saying that they will be completely gone, because that's just part of life. But the good news is, if they show up, they're actually telling you something wonderful is about to happen. And literally, when you apply the system, in 30 seconds or less, you transformed it. and you're not worried about it anymore. Where I don't know, like I would like to know if people are listening to this. For me, I was stunted as I would try to achieve success. I hit a wall, and that wall might have kept me down for days, weeks, months, and even years. And that's so unfortunate because I can't get that time back. Though the exciting thing is I'm here to share with you, you don't have to hit that wall and get stunted. You can shift it around very quickly. And again, to know if the doubts do show up, something wonderful is about to happen. Now, isn't that a myth, Buster?
That's amazing when we think about it. And when you're talking about, they're never going to go away. And, I guess I would have never thought about it this way, but we achieve something, well, there's always a next challenge because we're growing. It's about growing. And then that's when our fears and doubts come in because we've never been there before. So it's, we're thinking, I can't go there, or who am I to go there, or whatever. But if we take, and it's just the word, happens to be the word that I did this week, word of a week was challenge, and the challenge can be challenging, where it's hard, or it can be, let's challenge ourselves and look at it like, okay, that's just showing me, that I'm going to go farther. And so I love the idea of, being aware that they're always going to be there, but learning how to handle them and like you said, turn them around in such a short time after working through the process. So is this process something that you can kind of just talk about the different steps?
For sure. I can do that. I just want to touch upon that idea, the challenge, and when I share with people, turn the doubt inside out. It's not just the idea, but one day, I was thinking about doubt. My mind just re-scrambled the letters in the word doubt, and I came up with two words: TOBUD, to bud, to grow, to blossom. And it just so happens at that time I was hanging around lotus flowers a lot, and I got to watch them open and close for 3 days, and then the flower petals come off. And lotuses are just they're unworldly in a way, and that's is pretty amazing to realize that when I was hanging out, watching the lotuses. So again, realize that the doubts, when they show up, it's actually good for you. They're your friends, they're not your enemies. And you, again, just need some tools to help you. So, real quick, to talk about that is first you got to discover the nature of doubt. First, you got to realize and get excited that the doubts are your friends, they're not your enemies. Then you need to accept the gift of the doubt, essentially saying, oh, that's an opinion, not the only opinion. Like this business idea is going to fail, when you hear that in your head. And then you would say to it, oh, that's an opinion. I'm not denying it. I'm not pushing it under the rug. I'm accepting it. But then I say, but you're not the only opinion. And from that, you realize, oh, now I need to reframe my thinking, step 3, in that sense, because you stop biting into what I call the poisoned apple, that heaviness, right, that comes in your body when that happens. And so then the next step would be decoding your feelings. And as I said before, we want to embrace your feelings. And there's a process that I share with folks about how to do that. And it quickly transforms from, someone who may go straight down to the well of despair. When they do this process of what I'm talking about and they get to this point, I'm amazed almost every time I do this with someone. I ask them on a scale from 1 to 10, how intense is the feeling? And they're like, well, 4, 8, 9, 10, especially when it's so intense. And I tell you, in 30 seconds or less, during this process, I then ask them, oh, so how do you feel now? Did it get more intense, less intense, or, where are you at, or stayed the same? They're usually like, yeah, oh my gosh, it's like at a 1 or at a 4 or a 3. And I'm like, isn't this amazing? You didn't journal. You didn't go pound the pillow on anything. You didn't go beat up a branch or, scream out into the woods. you didn't do any of this. You just sat there in 30 seconds, transform your feelings. Why? Because your subconscious, when it sends the doubt to you, it's testing your resolve. It's not there to harm you. It's there to support you. And when you do this process, it's literally like you talking directly to your subconscious. And it's basically saying, hey, guys, I got your memo and I'm taking responsibility. I'm going to turn this around. And that's what happens. And that's why the feelings start to neutralize. And then the last part of this is anchoring your intention. You then say an anchor or a specific kind of affirmation that is relevant to the situation going on. And when you do that, you literally really send energy and energize your success of what it is you're wanting as you start to magnetize it to happen. Okay, so this is, but a lot of times I will say, a lot of people will use affirmations and they don't do the other steps prior to this. And the results are, they're not, they're not sustainable. That's what I would say. Sometimes it'll work and sometimes it doesn't. It's because you kind of got the virus in you of the doubt, and you can't just, if anyone is feeling a cold, right? And you let it go on for a few days and then now you start addressing it. It may take a little while to clear it versus the moment you feel a little off, you take whatever kind of things you do and boom, you're feeling better. That's what also I wanted to share here. So it's a matter of having very effective tools. And the other thing I'll share with you, Cathys, again, due to research and understanding neurology and the neural pathways, is in general, if you have been dealing with a negative pattern for a period of time, it's created a literal pathway in your brain. And it takes generally about 30 days to switch this out. Now, it's not just like, oh, I set it once and set a timer. At the end of 30 days, everything's going to be great. No, it's just like planting seeds in your garden. When you finally, plant the seeds and make sure the soil is the right condition, you put those seeds in, you water it. But do you just go away, and come back expecting a month later after just watering it once and expect to harvest a bunch of beautiful lettuce, broccoli, whatever it is you're growing? No, right? You got to keep coming back. You got to keep tending the garden. You got to keep watering the plant. This is the same here. You got to keep watering your thoughts, looking at it, and all along building up your confidence to realize that what you're doing is actually being a positive effect. Now, during the process, you may kind of feel some moments very excited, and then some moments doubtful, like, oh my gosh, I got slammed with another storm of doubts. That is good news. Anytime the doubts come up, it's good news. No, I am not crazy. And I did say that. Yes, anytime the doubts come up, it's good news. I did not say it feels good.
Right.
No, it does not feel good. Okay, but the reason why it doesn't feel good is trying to get your attention, right? It does get your attention, right? When the feelings come up. It's just if you don't know how to turn it around, now you're at a weak point, because how do you defend yourself? You could tell the doubts, oh, get out of here. You could say, oh, I'm not going to look at them. I'm not going to pay attention to them. And that's not a sustainable solution to the issue. Am I
Wow.
making sense? I know this is like a lot to take in, and I'm trying to say a lot quickly, but does it make sense at all?
Well, it definitely does make sense. And from the work I've done in the past, the work I've done with you. So I definitely do, and I'm hoping that it resonates with others. But, I think the key point that you're saying is when we have those doubts, your thing is turn them inside out, but really realize that I loved it when you said they're just trying to get your attention because something great is about to happen, instead of us going down the wrong road with the anxiety
Yes,
and the fears and dwelling into it. If we can learn how to reverse that. And it kept on, when you were talking about it, it kept on reminding me when I talked to people about changing their productivity habits. You know, it's just a habit that we've created. So it's about learning how to recreate it. And if you don't, you know, like you said, that neural pathway is already there. So if you want to go down a different path, you have to keep on going down that different path before you can get the path, right? If you're going down the green grass, you know, before it comes a path, it has to be constantly, you know, run over, right? So yeah, I think that's definitely interesting, and I hope that people will realize that it can make such a huge difference in their personal life and their business life, you know, every aspect of our life, because we have doubts and fears and anxiety, I think, in everywhere. I mean, some people in more areas than another, but so you would say that the first thing to do, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but when we're having those doubts, fears, or those feelings, take the moment to really recognize them and realize that they're there to help you instead of harm you.
100%, yes. And and also I will say too that a lot of times, and this has happened to me too, so I have empathy for folks. Um, that when the doubts come, even those people that I'm coaching and understand and are utilizing the system, sometimes the the strength of the storm of that doubt is so strong that it just takes you emotionally out of your real zone, and you even forget you even have these tools. And what I will say again to share, because this is really important, the level of your passion, the level of your desire, the level of your talent and skill, and where you're trying to achieve is equal to the level of your doubt. So if you have feel like you're a person who get haunted by doubts, whether every now and then or every day, that's a good sign. It's a really good sign. I did not say it's comfortable, but it will get comfortable. Because what I want to say again too is to understand when the doubts show up, and like you're mentioning, Cathy, is it's a really good sign. I envision it. It's like you're meeting the Wizard of Oz, and he's like, I am going to give you everything you want. Oh, you heard you stink. It really means you're great. You got to start believing it. You got to start making this action because it's testing your resolve. Basically, humans, we are electricity. So when you achieve and have more success, basically your energy becomes empowered. You become more powerful. So it's our internal kind of testing point. It's an internal security thing that the doubts come up if they do, and they're testing your level of resolve to realize that life is here to support you. And it's here to support you at the level you believe is ready to be supported at. And believe me, I wanted success in the past, but boy, I thought I was a piece of crap. So those two don't work. So if they're struggling inside, and therefore also then on the outside, life is going to play out to have that struggle as a reflection, not as a pain point, not to try to harm you, as a reflection to say, excuse me, you got some things to work out on. Do that and you're going to be amazing. And it does happen. And, I really do, I empathize with business owners and speakers a lot. Where when I work with, elite athletes, we're constantly being able to track the effect of this system in their life because they're competing a lot or things like in that sense. But for a lot of business people, you may be working on a project for 6 months, 3 months, a year, even before you even put it out there, and be like tortured throughout this of like some days excited about it, other days, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And again, I've been there. So what I'm trying to say is want to massage it, get ourselves into the game, get ourselves involved in putting ourselves out there and kind of in different ways. Maybe that project you're working on is going to take 3 to 6 months, but maybe there are other things about your business that you can on a daily basis help your progress to be more confident and take action. And I didn't say you have to, run the marathon today, but small steps, 1% each day, small steps. A week later, you're going to see yourself feeling totally a different kind of person. And so this is, I do want, I know I've been chewing your ear off here for a second, but I do want to say this. This is important what I'm going to say, that a lot of people hear what I say and they agree with me. There are a lot of golfers, almost every golfer I meet, Cathys, and I'm talking, amateur to professionals, will say, yeah, golf's a mental game. However, not a smaller percentage, a very small percentage of golfers will actually take themselves on and do the look at themselves internally and examine their mental thoughts to have success. And those that do achieve incredible success, even if they're amateurs, even if they're just weekend warriors, they're going to shift their game. So I want to say to those who are listening here, I'm not trying to impress upon you what I'm sharing. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm trying to impress upon you the importance of changing your life, because this is what matters to you. You know your life. You know what's been holding you back. And I'm going to invite you to take a step, a small step, but do take action to transform your life. Because why keep, let me just put out a question here. What benefit have you ever gotten from being in doubt? Fear and anxiety, the painful point. Has anyone ever received, a knock on the door and go, excuse me, Mr. Smith? Yes. We noticed here you've been in doubt patterns for about 10, 20 years now, and we feel really sorry for you. You just won the, Publishers Clearinghouse because of you being in doubt for so long. No, it doesn't happen. So so the question is, why hang out in the misery any longer? Not even for 1 second longer, and step into the confidence, step into the grandeur, step into the joy and the effervescent, passionate life you're dreaming of now. Begin it today. Isn't that a better way to look at it?
Oh, so definitely. And, as you were saying that, what was coming to my mind was that, we say we want things, but are we willing to take the action to do them? And it's not about the knowledge. It's not about, listening to you or me or anybody, it's about taking the action and moving forward. And I just got finished talking about this to someone else yesterday. I've always said, it might be 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but you're still going to get there. It just might take you a little bit longer. But, it's a matter of taking action. It's a matter of moving yourself forward. And you have just given everybody, what I would call the secret. It's the secret of our fears and our doubts and our anxiety, right? You've just told us that it's not true. They're not true. They're not, they're the opposite of what they are. And I think if we can just, just really let that sink in and know what that really means, I think it can change. Well, I know it can. It can change your life, because it has for me. Yeah, and like you said, it doesn't. Sometimes it's going to take you longer to turn it around than other times, but at least you can have the tool. By having the tool and knowing, and it's just so important to just really understand where you're at, and then take a moment to think about it, and that it's not true. It's the opposite. I just think that's the whole key. I love turn your doubts inside out. I love that saying. And I mean, I really truly have that up on it. And I keep on looking at it because I keep on having that up on my monitor that I have, because they're going to haunt us forever, right? Not maybe the same ones, but there's always going to be something, because everything's new in our life. Is when we get something, we got to go to something new. And I think, when we accept that it's not about getting that you're never going to have doubts anymore. It's just that we need to look at them differently.
Yes, and I do want to clarify that as what I can say and experientially, when you apply the system I share with folks, what you will experience is the doubts will lessen greatly. They will practically disappear. And because their only reason to show up is to get you to realize you need some more juice in your system to get you where you want to go. And if you're working the system on a daily basis, which is very simple to incorporate, folks, you won't need, the doubts won't need to show up because you're already doing what you need to be doing. So they're like, hey, you're good. We don't need to show up. You're taking responsibility. So, yeah, these are so important and to realize this emotional side. And if I could kind of like just go off on a tangent for a second, a sidebar point is it's so important to look and deal with these emotions because when they show up, right, let's be honest, we feel alone, we feel lonely, we feel worthless, we feel disconnected from our divine nature. All of these things are actually trying to help us, feel connected, feel joy, feel worthy, feel fulfilled, feel connected to our divine nature. And when you apply this system, it happens. It's incredible. And, like Joseph Campbell, said, follow your bliss. And that's what I'm sharing with folks. But then you're like, yeah, but if I do this, man, I'm going to get tortured because of the doubts. And you realize, yes, but with the right tools, it won't happen. And another thing I work with students too, and in the Department of in Education with Hawaii, and I'm brought into certain situations to help students where the regular therapies that they're going through to see, the school psychiatrist or therapist isn't working for them, and this system helps them. The one point I really wanted to bring out is sometimes there are students who are suicidal or suicidal ideation. And so what I found when I talk to these people, and sometimes I've talked to the parents, of the students first, and when they're, telling me their story, and I'm hearing it, and in my mind I'm going, what is this person's gene? And I'm hearing the sad story. I'm empathizing, whether they're cutting, themselves, whether they're having challenges emotionally, whether there's difficulties in the home, and they're telling me these things. I'm going, there's a genius inside them of this person. They just don't realize it. And then when I ask them, so tell me, do they have some really amazing creative outlet they love to do? And they're like, why do you ask that question? I said, because there's something amazing inside of them that they just don't believe in themselves yet. And just about every time I go this pathway with them, I find out that is a true point. They don't have the confidence in their creative desires. And it could be all kinds of things. It's, all kinds of creative ideas. But once we address it and start talking to them and I start sharing with them again, turn your doubts inside out, and they start to build their confidence, man, these kids soar and they achieve. And it's no different for any of us. So when I hear of people, really, have committed suicide or dealing with, drug abuse or alcohol abuse because of their doubts, it turns me inside out, Cathys, because it's just like, oh my gosh, if they only knew, if they only had this this simple skill set, they could change their whole life. Now the question is if they want to. Not everyone's willing and wants to, and we have to accept that too. But most people do. So
Well, I'm really glad you shared that last part because I think that's really important. So I have one last question for you. So if you could just give one piece of advice, knowing that we're talking mainly to small business owners, what would that be?
Why are you doing what you're doing? What is it about the business that you're doing that you're passionate about? Please don't give me the answer because I want to make $1 million this year. That's not a good enough answer. And if it is your answer, that's fine. Let's dig deeper. Let's find out what really makes you tick. And is it what you're doing, this particular business makes you tick? Are you really following your bliss, like I said earlier? Because if you're following your bliss, there are some flowers that bloom late. And sometimes those are the most beautiful flowers that exist. And so what I'm saying to you, life and business, it's not a sprint, it's a long distance race. And if you're in it for the long haul, you will be successful. You will be successful. You will feel fulfilled, and you will feel like I'm doing what my life's purpose. I'm doing this. And it doesn't matter if it's a business like like you want to build up and then sell. That's fine too. But I'm saying, why are you doing what you're doing? So that's what I would ask. And that's what I'd say. Look at that, explore it. And I'll also say, I want to give a resource that's a fun resource too, Cathie, is there's on YouTube, oh gosh, it's whoop, this cartoon. Oh my gosh, it just left my brain of what it's called. I got it. It's called the Sunshine Makers. And it's a video that was done in animation like in 1930s. And you could just YouTube it, go Sunshine Makers and see the video. It's an animation. It's a really helpful tool to see the effect of the doubt, the effect of choice. The key thing is choice, really about everything I'm sharing. Your choice of how you want to live your life moment to moment and every thought. And this little cartoon shows us that. And so I wanted to share.
That's wonderful. And I'm glad you shared that. I'll definitely have to go out there and look at that. But, I wake up every day with gratitude, and I didn't always do that, but through the losses that I've had, and it's a choice. I can wake up and say, "Oh, woe is me," or I can wake up and say, I'm thankful I'm here, and I'm thankful for the people that are still here in my life. Even not they're not all here, but the ones that are, and benefit. So I think, that's a great, great piece of advice. So tell the audience how they can find out more about you, maybe be in contact with you if they want to find out more.
Thank you, Cathie, so much. I like to share a few things. One is you can find me online at championyourinnergame.com. So again, that's championyourinnergame.com. And on the website, there's a brief video that I explain my story a little bit more, and also the system and how it's come about, and ways in which you can improve your life, whether it's for business, athletics, or your relationship. And so the second thing I want to share is a resource out of my heart that I realized that let's say someone who's just being introduced to these ideas, they're kind of like, something probably is turning your heart and your mind, and like, wow, I'm relating to what he's saying, but it's hard for me to fully grasp everything he's sharing because it's really kind of new, and I understand that. So I put together a free 5-video mini course that goes into more detail. It takes you to the next step here. And this course is designed to, transform your doubts, fears, and anxiety, and to quickly for you to start to see you can achieve more success, confidence, and fulfillment. And so again, this is a free complimentary 5-video mini course on Champion Your Inner Game, and how they can find out about it or get it, because I'm just about to launch it. Is the quick thing is email me at Cary, CARY, at championyourinnergame.com. Again, that's Cary at CARY and championyourinnergame.com. And in the subject line, just put in Cathys. And then I'll know that you want the course, and I'll email it to you. And this is a video course to help your business. And I would love to stay in contact with you once you receive it, or however. I'm very reachable in that sense, because I know the pain, I know the suffering, I know the writings on the walls, I know the graffiti of the silent pain you're going through, because I've experienced it myself. And I don't want you being there one more second. So please contact me, and I'm happy to help you.
Oh, thank you so much. I just feel, I feel full. I just feel so honored to have you in my life and to be a friend of yours, and to have learned from you. And I'm just so excited that I got to share you with so many other people. So thank you for being here, and we're going to have to do this again soon.
Love it. Anytime, Cathys. Thank you so much for having me on. You're a gem in your own self and your own world. And thank you for helping out business people in what you do. So I'm really grateful you exist.
Okay, you want to give us your goodbye? Aloha.
Aloha. And a hui ho.
All right. See you soon.
You bet.